Hi, I'm Jordan, and this video is an introduction and a call to more pleasure-forward messaging, practices, and research and engagement with sex workers and artists. This video is made with the belief that these people are sacred activists, and our advocacy of their sexual pleasure, agency, and rights will take grassroots movements, education, and political reform. I second the teachings of pleasure activism that pleasure is liberating, healthy, and a natural part of life. Our erotic and creative energy should not be stigmatized or policed, and it's my core belief that a sexually liberated society is safer, healthier, more imaginative, creative, tolerant, and overall way sexier. Sexual pleasure is defined as the physical and physiological symptoms that occur from solo or shared erotic experiences. Pleasure is synonymous with contentment, joy, satisfaction, and presentness. Sexual pleasure has been linked to our overall physical and mental well-being, as well as our satisfaction in the connection of our relationships and our sexual rights to autonomy and bodily integrity. Heteronormative and conservative cultures are often upheld by mutually reinforcing pillars. The religious leaders reinforce the policymakers, which reinforce our educators and our medical professionals, as well as sexual science research. Sexual science research has largely negated the pleasure and creative expression from sex workers. Some literature on male escorts does paint them as agents of desire, but still the information and research that we have on women and gender diverse sex workers is often painted through a lens of victimization. The social stigmatization of sex and art workers stems from the ungovernable identities that challenge heteronormative ideologies. They set fire to this pedestal in which we uphold our sexual shame. These harmful misconceptions and degrading stories about sex workers bleeds into the life of heteronormative civilians. Women have been reported to experience more pain during sex, are less likely to be comfortable negotiating sexual relations and consent, and go into sexual experiences not even expecting to be satisfied, let alone pleasured. Our collective sexual agency is fragmented from the bottom up. These labor movements live both inside and outside of the mainstream economy. Though selling sex is largely illegal in the United States, there is an estimated over 2 million sex workers active today. Sex work has existed since 2400 BCE Mesopotamia, and until we divest completely from capitalism, sex work will continue to exist. Censorship and efforts to criminalize these workers have often led to more dangerous situations for them and have failed to diminish human trafficking. The commodification of intimacy and pleasure is already prevalent in capitalism with or without sex workers. We have subscription dating apps, we have AI friendship necklaces, and marketing tactics that largely exploit our desire for connection. It's ironic to me that sex sells is pretty much the foundation of American advertising. Just this past Super Bowl, we saw a Carl's Jr. ad that featured a scantily dressed influencer with her mouth open, waiting for a burger while sauce flew in her face, and a man watched dazedly from below. These incredibly suggestive and explicit campaigns are allowed to be used by major corporations, but singular OnlyFans creators are often demonized by the public at large. Sex work was one of the first, if not the first, way women and gender diverse people could make their own money. Sex workers were some of the first feminist groups formed as early as the 1800s. And artists and sex workers in the 1960s and 70s set again to challenge our limiting beliefs and call for decriminalization of sex work. They did so by community organizing of groups such as Coyote and Art Workers Coalition, as well as art performance pieces from famous artists such as Marina Abramovic's Role Exchange and Carol Lee, who was the creator of the term sex worker, her one-woman play, The Adventures of Scarlet Harlot. These and other artists confronted the misconception that financial transaction negates all meaning, intimacy, and pleasure from shared experience. Research has gone on to second this notion that both escorts and their clients can feel these things in given situations. These performances also served as a mirror to society that show that we are much more alike than we are different from one another. We largely have sex workers and artists, specifically Black trans women, to thank for their continued fight for queer and trans rights. Where queer and gender diverse people would be without the existence and resilience of people like Marsha P. Johnson is beyond me. I also think it's time that we negate the empowerment paradigm. Sex work does not have to be empowering. I don't know about you, but I don't really feel empowered sitting in a cubicle Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 either. Sometimes we just have to do what we have to do to survive. But it's time to call for more. We deserve more. We need more sex-positive positions and decriminalization, not non-consensual saviorism. We need sex workers and and art workers because they challenge our limiting beliefs on connection and solidarity. It's been found in research that sexual suppression is a threat to society at large, not just marginalized and at-risk populations. I want to open our minds to the limitations that we place on sex and art. Why are objects and paintings about prostitutes considered art but not our lived and shared moments with our muses and the artists? Sex and art are two things that require absolute presentness, yet have metaphysical and transformative effects on us all. We have demoted impactful creative practices into a small box called content creators, and we call any sexually explicit material self-sexualizing, even though, once again, patriarchy already does that for us. Sex is art. Art is sex. The erotic is the creative, and the creative is the erotic. Sex is not just penis and vagina. It's romance, connection, playfulness. It's anal sex, it's cam sex, it's premarital sex, it's paid sex. Sex work is labor. It is not singularly defining of any one individual. It has broader historical impact than we can even imagine. Pleasure is not the excess of sex and drugs and alcohol and comfort. It is a belief that we can create within ourselves and together liberation, joy, and creative expression. Pleasure activism is the belief that there is enough for all of us to go around. Sexual science and labor coalitions should use more pleasure-forward and intersectional lens when advocating for the rights of the entire collective. I call to dismantle corporate ownership of our creative processes, invoke pleasure as radical community and self-care, decriminalize and support local art and sex workers in time, attention, and money. And I also recognize that solidarity across labor and human rights movements is more important than ever. Change does take time, but there's no time like the present. Thank you.